Howdy, y'all. Thanks for checking out this video from Southern Bush Motorsports. This is my series, Tales from the Bush. Basically a compilation of all my work that I did in the field for the past 25 years. So what we're looking at here is a 1970 Super Bee. When I saw this ad on eBay, normally I don't look on eBay for cars, but I saw this ad for a Super Bee. Looked like a pretty interesting car, definitely a factory Go Mango car. So I was like, maybe I'll pick this one up and check it out and see what happens. And I ended up driving all the way up to New Jersey. Never been to New Jersey before, but it was a fun trip. Kind of a scary trip. Trips up there, a lot of side roads and county roads and all kinds of stuff like that. But he didn't advertise it as anything fancy. Just that it came with some extra parts, like this door here. And I figured, man, I could sell that door for like $500, $400. Because it's a solid door, no rust, everything's in there, glass, all that. So, time I got there, it was midnight, and the guy was pretty cool about it, and I paid him for the car, because it was what he said it was, and looked at the VIN number against the title and all that, and everything checked out just fine. So, I loaded the car up onto my trailer, and, it was kind of a weird night. I never thought much about it, and he told me he had some extra parts in the trunk, but he really didn't know anything about the car. He inherited the car from an uncle, and it had been sitting in his driveway for 10 years, and he just wanted the thing gone. So he really didn't know much about the car. And like I said, he advertised the car as a 1970 Super Bee. I think I paid $7,500 for it. And these pictures right here are of what he said were spare parts that were in the trunk, bits and pieces of a motor. And obviously I know that's a six-pack intake, but I didn't think nothing about it. I thought maybe I scored big. I was just thinking parts. Here's a quick little picture of a warehouse that I was involved with. Every car that you see in there was super, super rare, super high options, and every one of those cars burned in a furious fire. So sad. Hemi and six-pack cars like you wouldn't believe it. Here's that 70 Super Bee again, the interior. Really, the car looked like it was just a street thug car. Somebody that might have street raced the car, and there wasn't anything fancy about it, but the car didn't look like it had ever been taken apart or ever touched, and it definitely had not been repainted. That was the under the hood of the car. When I saw that picture, I never thought too much about it. Like, why has it got like kind of a six-pack intake plate? Like, that's just weird. It's almost like it was a handmade. I've never seen one of those before. But there was no air grabber set up under the hood, so I never thought nothing about it. Obviously, that's not the right hood that's on the car. But again, I thought, no, just junk the hood. I think he said he had a spare hood with it. I can't quite remember on this, because this was probably 2006, I think. And he looked at that fender tag, take a real good look at that VIN number. When he had the thing advertised on eBay, he had most of that bottom line blurred out. So I never thought nothing about it. And I'm not going to tell you the trick behind this whole thing. But I can tell you right now that pieces started adding together, but I didn't really want to, and didn't really put it together that there might be something about this car. Look at that dash plus 150 mile an hour gauge. Actually had the RPM gauge in there too. If you remember right, it was a console automatic car, so it was like, somebody street raced it, but there was nothing fancy about it. And the car was pretty solid. It needed quarters, inner quarters, but it had quite a bit of documentation. There was a build sheet on it. Again, it was late at night. Didn't check all this stuff. I just wanted to load the thing up. When I think about it now, I think I paid $8,000 for the car. But, I just wanted to get the car loaded up. Part for me that I just spent 14 hours driving there, but I just wanted to get it loaded up, take it home. Maybe you can see the quarters are pretty rough in the back there. But that was fine. To me, it was a completely untouched car, unrestored car. Nothing had been taken apart on this car. A little rough, but, I figured I could, clean the thing up. Most quarters rotted out, wasn't bad on that. But the rest of the car was pretty damn solid. So, you know, I never thought much about it because that stuff can be repaired. No point in getting scared about that. God, it was such a weird night, you know. So I grabbed all the paperwork from him and took a few pictures underneath the car. This right here was a picture I took at 1 o'clock in the morning underneath the car, just so I could look at the picture to make sure it was solid. Because just because I said I was going to buy it, you know. When you buy cars on eBay, you got to make sure people aren't bullshitting it. So I looked over the car pretty good before I loaded it up. I'm not just going to give the guy money. This is a picture right here that he had on eBay. You know, I could see that fender needed to be fixed and stuff, but you just never know what you're going to get when you pick these cars up. Sometimes you luck out, sometimes you get screwed. But this is when people weren't really playing these games they were playing before. This was a picture I took when I was inspecting the car at the gas station. I was driving on my way home because things were kind of starting to add up. I actually ended up getting a U-Haul trailer because my trailer was having a few issues with the electric brakes and all that. So I figured I'd drive up there without a trailer. This is me pulling into a gas station. And it was funny, I was at the gas station in North Carolina. And this guy came up to me and said, I got one of those cars. And that started a whole big ordeal. I ended up not even getting home with this Super Bee. Ended up going to this guy's, old black guy's house. He had cars all over the place. It was just hilarious. So, one night I was sitting out in the field. Again, I still hadn't even come home from picking up this Super Bee. I was sitting out in the field because the next day I was going to have to count this old guy's car. The old guy that came out to me at the gas station said, I got a bunch of those cars. And I'm sitting out in the field, and the things started to add up. I started looking over the car, and I was like, wait a second here. This thing's got some telltale signs that, you know, I don't know, man. Like, something's weird about this car. So I started getting underneath the hood of the car, looking around. Look at those factory tailpipes. You can't even. Can't even fake that. So I know that's horrible, but I gotta back off. And I get underneath the hood of this car, and I'm like, man, there used to be an air grabber set up underneath the hood of this car. I mean, factory air grabber set up. Even though somebody punched a hole in this hood and put that 69.5 lift-off hood 6-pack top on the hood, there used to be a factory air grabber in there. So they take the VIN number. I'm like, Lord have mercy. I couldn't possibly be what I think it is. And sure enough, this guy had sold me a 1970 383 Super Bee. That's what he said. And these two doors right here came with it. So I'm starting to look at this car. Yeah, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm starting to look at this car, and I'm like, what the hell? There's no way. Then I looked at that fender tag real close, and I'm like, that's a VOA. That means this car was a 1970 440 6-pack Super Bee. And then I got a better look at that fender tag. You can go back and check out the fender tag if you want. I don't know how I missed all this stuff, especially being in the business that I was in. But this was a 1970 440 6-pack Super Bee. Not only that, it was an N96 car, which means it was a factory air grabber car. And then I went inside the interior to see if the air grabber lever was in there, and sure as hell, there it was. This guy had no idea what he was selling. Well, man, looks like it's a 383 in the car, though, so it doesn't do me much good if it's a 383. Then I got to look at the motor, and I was like, well, I don't know, that looks like a 440. Doesn't look like the right 440, but it looks like a 440. And can you imagine if this thing was a real numbers matching car? You know, that'd be something. So then I get into the trunk. Open up the trunk. Because he said he had put all the spare engine parts in the trunk. So I opened up the trunk and I was like, well, those are six-pack heads right there. Then I look at the six-pack intake. I'm like, those are six-pack intakes. You can kind of see the lever right there. You can see the pull lever right there. If you look close. Then I look at the number on the side of the block that was in the trunk. And there you go. Numbers matching block. 1970 446 pack Super B N96 car. The guy had no idea. Thanks for coming by and checking out Tales from the Bush.